help me understand how I would go about finding the right financial advisor.
I would say that's a down the road question. What I would say to anybody starting out, you need to do a couple of things before you even get to, should I use an advisor or who should I use? You have to understand how to spend less than you make. Therefore, you have to understand what you spend. Most people never even get to that point. That doesn't require tons of technical expertise, but it requires a bit of concentration.
What does that look like? If I'm somebody new and I'm like, okay, Don is asking me to spend 30 minutes a week. What does he mean? What do I start?
Think about the things we spend half an hour a week doing. Whatever Netflix show we love. I mean, and I'll do it on my laptop while I'm watching a Netflix show. It doesn't require full brain power, but you have to have a clear measurement of what you spend, and then a concept of what your inflows are.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the Wisdom of Wrench podcast. My name is Kevin Comerford. Excited to be here today. We've got a great show. Gosh, I always say that, but we really do. We always have great shows. So if I say that over and over again, it's because I really feel it. Today's a special one because we're building on a concept that I really had no knowledge of when I was younger, when I first started in the trades, when I first started in the home service industry. I had no knowledge of this, and we're going to get into what that is. And what that story is. But what we're talking about today is really part one of a two-part series, which is called Financial Literacy for Home Service Pros. Part one, we're going to really get into some core concepts of personal finance, presented in a simple, easy to understand way, with the objective to really demystify this thing called money management. And then part two, we're going to build off of part one, the foundation, and really get into some smart strategies for growth and your long-term security, and what I like to refer to as your long-term freedom more so than security. And I got that phrase from our host, by the way. Or excuse me, from our guest, because we've got a special guest joining today that I'm going to introduce here in a second. I'm going to introduce him right now. Don Garman. Don Garman and I have been friends for well over 20 years now. And we have an interesting story that we're going to get into and how we met. And I'm going to let Don take it here in just a second. Before I do that, though, I want to also make sure that you all know that we're going to have Andrew Zaragoza, who's our producer, be a part of today's episode. Andrew always has great insight, and he's going to ask some questions from his perspective as well. Andrew's a bit younger than me, probably 20 years younger than me. So his perspective is going to be a bit different than mine, and we want that feedback. He's a little bit younger than Don and I, like I said, and we want that feedback. So Andrew, great to have you here today. Great to have you a part of the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And thank you, everybody, for supporting this podcast. It is awesome when I see some of the comments roll in and some of the, just seeing the numbers kind of go up. It's been really cool. But yeah, I'm really excited because, yes, I am younger, but I'm in a totally different place in my life than you guys are, right? My son is 4.5. I do have a daughter that's about to graduate high school. But as far as on the financial side of things, I'm a lot closer to everybody else that's listening to the show. So I'm not going to let you guys off easy today. If you guys say something that sounds a little bit too good to be true, I might check you on it, but really looking forward to today.
Love that. Right. Perfect. Okay, so let's get into me introducing our guest, Mr. Don Garman. Again, like I said, welcome, Don. I'd love for you to just kind of share with the viewers a little bit of your background, and then when you're done, we'll get into our story.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Andrew. Happy to be here. Honored to be here, actually. Before I even get into my introduction, I wanted to say it was a bit emotional coming into this parking lot today because it was maybe 13 or 14 years ago that we started to work on the Service Champions 401k plan together. And some of the concepts that we're going to discuss today we're talking about with that group of people back then, many of whom are far better off for those conversations then. So hopefully some of these concepts that really don't change a lot through time, they're very simple concepts. We're going to describe them, will resonate with some of the people here and help in some of the same ways. But to get to my introduction, interesting time for me in my life. I'm 55, just turned. I got into this career right out of college at the end of 1992. So this would be my 33rd full year. And the interesting piece of that journey is I've gotten to see the concepts that we're going to talk about today in my own life from an early 20s person, not even in a relationship, to now my wife and I will celebrate our 28th year of marriage this year with a 24-year-old and a 20-year-old. And we've built our financial lives brick by brick, just like Andrew is in the process of doing now. We were not given a lot of resources or help from anyone, and literally had to be a financial planning and personal finance use case ourselves. And now in our third decade of having done this and sort of, done the diet and exercise daily work over 30 years, are really seeing a lot of the concepts that were conceptual 20 years ago and 15 years ago in real reality terms. And so that might seem a little bit esoteric, but I'm going to try to boil it down into real simple concepts for people. It's not rocket science, but it's the execution that's the hard part. And it's the attention span over time. That's the hard part. So anyway, the first 20 years of my career, I was at two of the largest and most well-known financial services firms in the world, and then reached a point, as many people do, where after 20 years, which I regarded as the halfway point of my career, my working years, with my wife and some honest conversations about our capabilities and how we wanted to express our lives in the second half of our working years, decided to go out on our own, just like you did back in the day. And you've been with us every step of that journey. I remember that phone call vividly. And started our firm in 2013. So 2026 will be our 13th year.
Wow.
Yeah, in business. And have since started another project, another business, and have had a tremendously rich and rewarding life because we get to spend it around people like you. And so very grateful for our friendship, and I can't wait to get into the story. But professionally, that's basically the introduction.
That's great. Cal graduate.
Go
Bears, right?
Yeah, go Bears.
Go Bears.
Had a bit of a rough beat down last week, but we'll get through it. And the life of a Cal Bear
surfer
fan.
Growing up down in SoCal. I want to hear some of that.
Huntington Beach.
Want our viewers to hear that.
Did a lot of surfing growing up. Surfed every day of my life through 4 national championship surf teams through my my last year of my junior high. I was on the high school surf team all the way through my junior year, and I'm also a drummer and played in a bunch of successful bands and had financial experiences through that as well, which I'm happy to get into if it ever gets relevant. But yeah, the parts of this that have connected with me certainly early on in my life are even from back in my high school band days, understanding where the money was going. And in my case, because no one else was paying attention to it, I became the person who did, and how doing the little things even then became financially rewarding for the other band members in a way where I remember the lead singer saying, "Where did you get all this money?" And I'm like, "Well, we've been earning it." Yeah, and so because they weren't paying attention to it doesn't mean it wasn't happening, but it created some good habits early on in life.
Well, we have a heck of a story, in my opinion. And when I say a heck of a story, our journey goes back to a gym where we met each other, a CrossFit gym. Friend of ours, Paul Southern.
You're not going to get into the part where I insulted you, are you?
That's so good. A friend of ours owned a gym. You and I had no idea who each other were, and we just went there and began to work out together and go through the classes. And Your wife was there. My wife was there at different times. And we really just kicked up the friendship by working out and seeing each other push and competing against each other.
I was counting your reps. Not in a creepy way, but paying attention.
I say this because over 20 years later, Don and I worked out together yesterday.
Yeah, and you were beating me yesterday too.
Yesterday. And no, I finished doing 12 push-ups or 12 pull-ups, and he would do 13. And it was
it's been
but that's how our relationship started, was we were pushing each other. We were,
and still do.
And still do today.
Yep.
And there was a mutual respect that we had for each other, and we didn't really know at all who each other, like I said, was.
Yeah. Until that fateful lunch.
And then we had, I have no idea how that happened, whether you invited me out to lunch. I knew what you did. I knew that you were a wealth manager. And at the time you were working for I think you were working for Morgan Stanley.
I think so. Yeah.
Yep. You were working for Morgan Stanley. And I know you shared that you did that for the first 20 years of your life.
Yeah. Merrill for 15, Morgan Stanley for 5, but yeah.
Yeah. And we decided, I think you said, hey, let's go out to lunch. And, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he probably wants to go to lunch to find out a little bit more about me and hang out. And, he probably wants to understand if I would be interested in this is what was going on in my head.
Sure.
My financial situation and who am I using? And so all these thoughts are in my mind when we're going to lunch. And we had a nice lunch. We talked a lot about our families, and I remember you talking about, you were building your career still. I was still in the early stages.
I remember you laid out a lot of what has since happened in that lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were looking ahead a full decade at that time.
Yeah, and we were talking about how, I want to build something special and something that can carry on a legacy for my children and stuff like that. And after the lunch ended, and you can interject with any other comments about the lunch. I said to you, Don, I'd rather us just be friends.
Yep.
I'd rather us just be friends for the next couple years.
Yeah.
And if something happens organically, then it'll happen.
Yep.
But I really love our competitions in the gym.
Yep.
I really enjoy your wife and Mindy, and she's great. And let's just put everything on pause.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember it was that Christmas that you invited us to your Christmas party, and I showed up in a bow tie, and I was the only one I think that had a tie of any kind on. And I think at that time you were a little probably a little suspicious of our emerging friendship at that point. But
yeah. And I just said, let's pump the brakes then. And
for all good reasons.
Yeah. And it's funny because then over the course of the next 20 years.
Yeah. 20 plus. Yeah.
20 plus years, our lives have intertwined.
Heavy duty. Yeah.
Organically.
Yeah.
From you and I beginning very small.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
And I'm talking
for years.
Very small.
Yeah.
To where today, so much of my financial worth I have at your firm, trusted at your firm. I have now gotten my children who have come to see you, and you've worked with them.
And our children are friends with each other, which is even, another miracle of it all.
Our children have gone to leadership training classes together.
Our wives are friends.
We vacation together.
Yep.
And we, the thing that I was going to say, you've even gotten to the point now where I've gotten my parents with you and all their wealth.
Yeah.
And that, I think the message is probably with all of this is that takes time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any trusted relationship takes time.
Yeah. Before we got on air, you share a concept about this thing
Yeah. What it's all about.
Money management, wealth management.
Yeah.
And you related it to something you and I both know very well, which is fitness and health. And
Yeah.
Would you share that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the pros and cons of the world that we live in today is the information, the volume of information that we're all bombarded with about financial information and health and fitness information. I view these very similarly. And, the world sells quick fixes. It sells crash diets. It sells, one-shot solutions, both in the fitness realm and in the financial realm. And the answer, I think, to permanent success in both is much more simple. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's just simple. And so when I keep thinking, about the younger people and even myself starting out, what were the things that happened early on that created the success in the third decade? It is, starting early, the crawl, walk, run. The numbers don't sound big when you're 23 and 24 because you don't have a lot. And that's the same way with going to the gym once. It's the first day you go that's the most intimidating. And by the time we're all there in the third month, as you and I were 20 plus years ago, I remember those times when I couldn't do the unaided pull up, or when he said push the sled, and I'm like, I can't push that sled. And and 5 years later, we're going around this block right here pushing that thing. And it's like I always liken the financial journey to the hike up on the ridge. You and I start out on a hike. We park the car and we start walking, and we're chatting. You don't even realize you're kind of out of breath, but you're chatting and you're just going, and you turn around and you look at the valley floor and you go, wow, we've gone a long way.
Yes.
You can see now the clouds that sit on the valley floor. And, now we're in our mid to upper, edge of that hike. So the further up you go, you see there's further to go, but you see how far you've come. And for me, if I think about what it really is about for the people watching this, what are we solving for? What do I want for other people? It's the freedom that you get when you feel like you don't have to go do things you don't want to do anymore because you have the financial flexibility to have created choices for yourself. And the stock market is a tool that helps you get there faster than other things you could do. And so it's nothing more or nothing less than that. And I could break it down and make it more complicated. That's what is the problem, is the financial services industry exists to convince you it's more complicated and thereby sell you something that you probably don't need. So that's a technical thing. It's obviously in the book that was in that book. Yeah. But that's basically the issue. You can do it if you just follow some simple steps and execute. That's the trouble with everything. And diet and exercise is the same. People will do it on day one. It's the New Year's resolution. Gyms are packed in January. They're empty in July. And that's the way the world is in financial literacy as well. It's more like a language than anything else. You have to apply some time to it. And that's the sort of consistency of what you do most of the time is what matters. It's not what you do occasionally.
Okay, so Don, you just mentioned something about the stock market. When you and I first met, I was so anti-stock market.
Yep.
I thought it's just for the Wall Street guys. I remember my parents growing up had made investments with people, and I would hear them when I was a young boy. I would hear them that they made investments with people, and the people took off with the money. And lo and behold, those were things that had an impact on me.
Yeah.
Where I was thinking when I would hear it, because they wouldn't talk to me about it, but I hear them talking about it, and I'd hear about this person that ran off with their money and some Ponzi scheme or whatever that they got involved in.
Yeah.
I was concerned, like, whoa, I wonder if this is going to affect our lives. I wonder if this is going to affect me. As a little boy, I'm thinking this.
Of course, yeah. It's scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what was going on for me. And then my mother was so into real estate. Any extra bit of cash, and they didn't have a ton of cash. They had to do it all on their own.
Yeah,
but any extra
they were
money,
running a business.
Yeah. Any extra money that they had that they were saving up, they were always going towards real estate because of their bad experiences with someone that was in investments. So you had a big challenge with me.
Yeah.
So talk about that when you said, the education that you gave me about why consider investing in the stock market and how to do it. We're going to get into the how piece.
Yeah. Let me just sort of break down what the math suggests about this, which is, I only brought 2 slides, and I don't know when the appropriate time, maybe multiple times, we will put them up. But so what it's really all about is the value of money goes down over time. So that's the reverse way of saying that is inflation erodes the purchasing power of our money.
Right.
Right. $1 when we were growing up bought more than it does today.
Correct.
So keeping $1 in your pocket is a guaranteed loser through time. So how do you keep up your dollar buying the same amount of goods 10 and 20 years from now? Well, we know because we can measure what inflation has done through time. So you have various tools to try to keep up with inflation. The best tool has been putting money, like Service Champions is a good example, or any of the businesses in the S&P 500, which is what the stock market is generally talked about as being. They're in business to create products and services to sell to others and make a profit. And over time, they've made more of a profit and plowed it back into being larger businesses and creating new products. Apple's a good example. I don't know how many Apple devices you have in your house today, but 10 years ago, you had fewer. 10 years before that, you had fewer still. So their products have been so successful that people like you and me have multiple of their products. They make gobs of money. And as investors, we have the ability to buy into those companies very cheaply and let those businesses make more money for us so that down the road, our money can be working for us as hard as we worked for it. And I can buy more stuff because if it grows faster than inflation, then I'm getting more purchasing power in the future. And that's the part that people never connect to is it isn't what happens in year one that matters. And this is the conversation you and I have had for years. What the first slide I would throw up here is it's a concept that I wish every child learned with their ABCs and timetables, which would be the rule of 72. This is a super important slide because what it tells you is what rate of return you get on your money divided into 72 will tell you how many years it will take your money to double. Simple as that. So just the simple math. If you get a 7.2% return, your money will double in 10 years. And if you get a 10% return, your money will double in 7.2 years. Well, why is that important? Well, because the difference between 10 years and in a 7.2% example, doubling twice or once in 20 years or twice in 20 years is the difference between one more double. So it's the last double that counts, which is why you want to get the rate of return on money you're not needing as high as possible. And that's kind of, I know that's a technical point, but moving your rate of return from 7.2 to 10 gives you one more full double in a 20-year period, which is totally different depending on where you started and how much money you've put in along the way. Gives you a whole different set of options. In other words, if you saved $500,000 and it doubles to $1 million and $2 million, $2 million is a whole lot better than $1 million in terms of what options you have at your disposal. So it seems like even those numbers are high and far-fetched. However, in the short amount of time I worked with the Service Champions 401k, because of the design decisions we made, Multiple people thanked me for, I've never had that kind of money before. I didn't even know that was possible.
Right.
But it is possible because you have to just continue to shovel the coal of the money in all the time and not freak out like everybody else does when they're freaking out. And you'll never imagine how far and how much progress you can make. It's crazy. The math of compounding. We always talk about this, right? Even in our peer group.
For sure.
Everything is always and forever about compounding. I say it to my kids all the time.
So you're talking about stuff that, and you have concepts that a lot of times I have no understanding of. You related it to a language. I remember some of the first times we ever met, you said to me, Kevin, this is going to be like me, like you learning Mandarin.
Yeah, me speaking Mandarin.
Me speaking Mandarin.
Yeah.
So know that over time, you're going to hear me speak Mandarin.
Yeah.
Over and over again, and you're going to begin to understand it.
What's crazy is when I hear you talk to me now, I'm like, wow, look at this guy.
Yes.
Because you have really adopted and internalized a lot of these concepts, and then now we're speaking back Mandarin to me, and I'm going, well, there you go. Now we're speaking the same language, but you weren't there on day one.
Yes.
It's time under tension, just like everything else.
Finding the right person. Okay. You just said rate of return of 7.2 versus 10%. So that, what is that? A 2.8% difference?
Yeah.
If I'm new, and I'm thinking of my nephew who is working with a financial advisor. How help me understand how I would go about finding that right person?
Yeah, that's great. To me, I would say that's a down the road question, because what I would say to anybody starting out is you need to do a couple of things before you even get to should I use an advisor or who should I use, which is you have to understand how to spend less than you make. That's point one. And so therefore you have to understand what you spend. And that's, most people never even get to that point. They really don't know where their money's going. And so that's a part where that doesn't require tons of technical expertise, but it requires a bit of concentration. And so this is another, metaphor to health and fitness, which is, people want to be fit, but they don't want to do anything. You know what I mean? And so you have to, and we talked about this yesterday briefly, your financial health is just a close second to your physical health in terms of things that will drive how your life goes. And think about the things we spend half an hour a week doing, whatever Netflix show we love. I mean, and I'll do it on my laptop while I'm watching a Netflix show. It doesn't require full brain power, but you have to have a clear measurement of what you spend. And then a concept of what your inflows are. And for me, even early on in my life, right out of school, as I've encouraged my kids to do, first job, you got to put a large amount of your pay in your 401k, but I barely make any money, Dad. Doesn't matter, because whatever you make in year one, your first raise is going to sound like a lot more. And then you will never notice that money that you're putting in. And it's what you do in year one that really matters in year 33 or 34, right? And I've been doing this since I started out in my career, and I just think it's why we built your 401k the way we did. We said, we're doing this by design. You can opt out. No one did. We're putting you in the right investments by design. You can change them. No one did. So we built it to succeed by design. And then 5, 6, 7 years later, people went, wait, what? Where'd all that money come from? And so you have to build the infrastructure right for yourself. And then you can start to, as I've said, to use our ABCs or, metaphor, you don't write a poem of any significance in kindergarten. At least most people don't. That's deeper stuff. And when we get into, okay, now I've got some savings, I've got some investments. What is my strategy? Where is it all headed? Now, when do I get these different hallmarks of financial freedom? That's when you want to consult somebody, because then it does work back to what are your goals? Not everybody's the same.
So understanding what I'm spending. Right?
Yes.
Let's go to that. Let's go back to that. What does that look like? Because I could share a little bit about what that looked like for me.
Sure.
And for me, it happened on Sunday evenings. And I got into the habit of balancing my checkbook every single week. On Sundays, I would balance my checkbook.
Yeah.
And I would just know where I stood, what was I spending this week. And that drove conversations with my wife.
Yeah.
And they weren't always great conversations.
Yeah,
Don.
for sure. For sure.
Let me assure you, there were some cold nights that Kevin spent.
Yeah. No fun Sundays.
At the Comerford household.
Downer Sundays.
And a lot of it was my approach. A lot of it was me holding on too tight. Me getting really anxious because I was the one that was in charge of our financial.
Yeah.
I would be the one that was looking at the checkbook and seeing the money that was going out.
Yeah.
But what I learned back then was just being aware of what I was spending.
Yeah.
Being aware of what we were spending as a household.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
if I'm somebody new and I'm like, okay, Don is asking me to spend 30 minutes a week. What does he mean? What do I start? What do I look at?
Yeah, I mean, and this brings me back to, concepts you and I feel like I'm being redundant to you, although I know this is just for you, but so one of the early techniques I developed in my own life was minimizing the things I need to track. In other words, accounts. So I would have my entire paycheck go into one account, and I would have some budget that I was trying to work around, and that amount of money would go into the spending account. So the money coming in and the money going out were happening in two different accounts, so that I only needed to look at this account to know what I was spending. So then, all the years later, all the auto debits and subscriptions and stuff, it's only one place I need to go to know what the number is.
The spending number.
The spending
Correct?
number.
Okay.
And so it was geared off of the income number, because I've always been very serious about making sure whatever's coming out of this account is less than what's going in this account. I don't move all the money into this account that's paying the bills intentionally, because there's got to be some money left here, because if we overspend, and this gets to, I'm going to sort of launch a metaphor here that I hope hits home with people, and not everybody plays poker, but I was thinking about this morning. When you're in your early 20s, you're sort of in a one outer hand. You need things to go well for you to not be financially in distress. I remember early in my life, I was one flat tire or carburetor or, away from, oh my gosh, I just took a massive hit. So a lot of your 20s and 30s are about building in additional outs so that you can't get flushed out of the game. And that's part of the brick by brick, setting your outflows to be less than your inflows. People use debt improperly. We can get into that later. That is a corrosion that you put into your life if you're allowing the interest costs to absorb a large amount of your pay. Then you're working for them. You're barely even working for you. You're just working for them. And you're trying to build yourself into a position where 45 cards in the deck work for you. You're down to 5 cards really, or 7 cards that would impact you in any way. And eventually you get to the point where every card that comes out is a win for you, because you have something to do with it. You have a way to go to make that positive for you.
Yes.
And that's true financial freedom. That's when you are in a situation where you aren't reliant on anybody anymore. You're not relying on the government. You're not relying on your employer. Every day from that point forward is yours. And that's what we're really all working toward.
Don, you had said, for like the young person that just getting started.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, let's start putting this money away now, so you don't even recognize that it's actually being put away. I love that. I'm 40 now, and I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And with today's, again, like it's kind of a hot topic, so I'm going to bring it up, but today's economy, right? Everything's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for me to get started now.
Yeah.
With the budget that we do have, and now to put something aside, it's like, I got bills, we got food to pay or to buy, like there's a lot going on. So for somebody in my situation, so let's say 30 plus, what advice do you have for that person that, they know what's coming in because they're going to use up pretty much all of it. Hopefully that's not the case for everybody, but in most cases right now, that's just what's happening. So then where do I start?
Yeah.
Right? Like again, the literacy piece of it,
Mhm.
there's nobody in my bloodline and my family that's going to teach me this. So I have to learn from you.
Yeah.
So I don't have the mindset or the understanding of like, okay, if we start today
Mhm.
in X amount of years, it's actually going to be something. But in my head, I'm in the here and
Yeah,
now.
I got to survive to the next paycheck or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
So
I get
what
that.
advice do you have for me?
Yeah. The easiest way to this happened to so many people at Service Champions that it was such a rewarding thing, which is there is a getting addicted to savings and the savings habit and muscle. So that does require, I don't know if you have a 401k plan or all those different tools, but even if it's 1%, but then next year you have to move it to 2, and you on some level, you have to be somewhat optimistic about your own agency in the world. You have to feel like you're going to be doing better in 3 and 4 and 5 years than you are today. I mean, if that's not your condition, then we have to start there. But if you're like, okay, I think for my 2 children, do you have 2? Yeah, for my 2 children, I'm willing to make some sacrifices so that we have some options when I'm 60 or 65 that I wouldn't have if I had never started. So if you never start, you're never going to start. So you have to start with something in your 401k, or if you can't do that, start saving some amount of money. Whatever it is that you can identify in your every 2-week budget that maybe we could do without. Because at some point there is a trade-off. You are investing in your future self. That requires a trade-off of something that you're doing today.
Right.
And if you're like, nope, there's no air in my budget, every one of those coffees we need, every one of those weight outs we need, and we're not going to sacrifice to the point of never having any fun. It may feel like that in year 1, but once you see the benefits of that in year 3, you won't miss the coffees. And so there is a little bit of grind in the middle, just like that first pull-up you do. You're like, there's no way I'm going to get this done. Well, you won't unless you try to keep pulling on that bar until your body starts to move.
Mm-hmm. And then just real quick too, like kind of call me and those that are maybe in that same situation where you're like, where I'm saying, no, Don, there's no room.
Yeah.
What is one of the first things you see that people are spending on that they stop and then they're like, dude, I totally forgot that I was spending on that.
Yeah. The biggest challenge with generally this condition is more on the debt side. I don't know if that's your condition or not, but people are spending so much money on interest, and that's really an acute issue. And it starts small, and then it grows because you start using credit to provide some dopamine of something that is working for you, and then you don't realize it became a habit that is becoming the monkey on your back, and so that's really where basic financial literacy, we have to stop getting people to put things on credit that go instantly to 0 in value or even decline in value. I even go to some of the assets that our friends have debt on things that are going down in value. That's just, it's putting you.
Give me an example of that.
Um,
Give me an example of a product that does that, or something that you buy on, you go into debt on that is devaluing.
Yeah, I mean, it can be as simple as a car that you buy that is more expensive than what you can afford, and the assets going down in value faster than the notes going down in value. You'll never get on the other side of that. And people are putting clothing and all kinds of different things that are going to go to 0 in value, and they're putting debt on it. And it's just
when you say that, you mean they're buying it on their credit card,
mm-hmm.
and rather than paying off their credit card,
yep,
each month,
exactly, they're making minimum payments.
They're making minimum payments.
So inevitably, that is a noose, a slipknot noose around your neck, and it just will prevent you from going anywhere financially. It's just something that. It's a simple thing that we have to get out of the habit of doing.
Yeah. And what I love that you said Don, is this agency, like your own agency. Because I felt some of that when I bought my first house.
Yeah.
I was scared to death.
Same.
Right? I was scared to death. I thought my whole life had to change. And I say that because what you're talking about with regards to putting 1% away, then putting 2% away, then putting 3% away. And by the way, the Wrench 401k plan allows you to, they match 30% of the first 6% of your income that you put away. So that's free money.
Yep, for sure.
So if you can get it ratcheted up to at least 6%,
that should be your first goal.
Yeah, minimum 6.
Yeah.
Minimum 6 of
minimum
your
6.
And
we used to say headed to 10, right?
Headed to
our
10.
old plan was get it to 10 and then we'll stop raising it.
Correct. And and we were I remember all these stories of people coming to you and telling you, Don, I got more money, and it was just so exciting. And
well, let me share the math that we worked on then, which is your average employee, what they were making. This is years ago. It's probably different now, but at that, your average payroll, if they saved 12.5%, which is, I think it was your match plus 9 was 12.5, then they would have $1 million by the time they'd worked here for 25 years. And so that was the simple exercise we put your employees through, which is, this is how we're designing it. We would like you to all to have $1 million by the time you're worked here for 25 years. And everyone looked around the room like we were crazy, right? And that, I think the math should work, or it should even be better now.
It is better.
Because the average payroll's gone up.
It is better, yeah.
So, I mean, that's what it's at stake. It's not the cup of coffee and the cost of it today. It's if you knew that cup of coffee was worth 40 grand, in 35 years, you'd be like, I could do without.
Yes.
And that's the sacrifice piece. And people hate to do that sacrifice stuff today, but it's not what it costs you today that matters. It's what the choices it robs you of at the end that matters.
You mentioned, I was talking about my house and how I was so afraid that I was going to have to change my whole life. And then you normalize to it.
It's like acclimatizing to air. Yeah.
Exactly. You normalize to it, and you have to go through that pain, that angst. And I'm relating that to the same pain that you may feel when you ratchet up from 4% to 6%. You normalize it. And as long as you trust your own agency and your own ability to continue to move forward, to continue to improve yourself, to continue to strive.
Yep.
And and that took me a while.
That's that hike up you're out of breath, but the out of breath tells you it's working.
That took me a while. What you just are saying, to trust myself.
Yeah.
Just trust, Kevin, that you're going to continue to develop to be a better person, a better provider, a higher income earner. Yeah. And now I had to do the things.
You did the things.
I had to do the things. Yeah. I had to be reading good books. I had to be putting good thoughts into my mind. I couldn't be drinking during the week.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have those 2, 3, 4 beers on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night.
Yeah.
I knew that those would set me back from performing at a high level when I came into work the next day.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to take care of myself physically. I knew I needed to get sleep. So now we're going down this whole road of making sure that we're taking care of ourselves so that we can be the best that we can be when we perform at work.
Yeah. I mean, what's wrong with what you just described? Like, doesn't that sound like a good formula?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, but it is not as fun, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But if you look at it, looking back from 30 years from now, you'll realize it's what mattered. It was the fun you sacrificed that made a lot of big difference,
Would you guys say that that's a bit of a hack right there, right? You whether it's a mortgage or it's putting up to 6%, you now I don't want to use the word pressure because I don't want it to be like thought of negatively, but it's sort of that pressure of like, we committed to this. Now I'm not going to be drinking with my friends to watch Monday Night Football because I got to go, whatever it may be. I see it as like a really cool hack to like force yourself to level up.
I call it strategic urgency.
Nice. Yeah.
Strategic urgency. It is a strategic move that you're making that's very intentional. I'm going to ratchet it up, and there's going to be an urgency inside of me to perform at a higher level. Almost, it's a good type of fear. There's bad types of fear. That is a good type of fear. I get the chills just thinking about it. How many times I've done that to myself over and over again. And then you said it earlier, Don, there's a muscle that gets created inside of you, a savings muscle. You become better at it and better and better.
I liken it to, I mean, we've all got kids. I mean, I remember, I'll just be sort of candid about this, which is when my wife was pregnant with our oldest, very, very pregnant. She was born just before 9/11. I think she was 2 weeks old when 9/11 happened. But I was one of those kind of guys that was like, I'm not sure I'm going to feel it, the thing I'm supposed to feel when, I don't know if I'm that kind of guy. Maybe I'm not that kind of guy. And I remember shortly after looking at her, however many days or weeks, and this is, I'm sure, is how nature designed us. But I remember thinking, oh, I can't let this person down. I whatever responsibility I had, now it's real and I got to make it happen. And so that just set a different set of priorities and behaviors that changed everything. Yeah. So,
oh gosh, it is. I tell young technicians a lot of times when I see them, buddy, you got to get married. You got to get married.
Yeah.
And they're 25, 26, 27. You got to find that, and I'll just say a male technician, you got to find that woman that you're going to
go to battle for.
Go all in for.
Yeah.
And that I liken that to having a child, that now I've got it. There's this strategic urgency that I got to perform at a higher level now. And that's a fantastic thing. Again, that there's stress that comes with that.
Yeah.
But that is the good kind of stress. And again, to those young technicians out there that I have told over the years, you got to get married. You got to get married. It was with the intent that I know they will perform better when they have that person that they're working for. It's less about the parties on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, and more about, okay, what am I doing to take care of my family?
The team.
I've got some overhead that I got to take care of, and that is good. That is healthy.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and I forgot the term of that spot in your brain, but basically it grows based off of what you feed it. So you make the hard decision, it sort of flexes just like we do in the gym, and it grows a little bit. You feed it the softer, easier route, it starts to appreciate that more, and then you start to want to go down that path. So just like what you're saying with the saving, with the ratcheting up each percentage, every time you do it, it's sort of like you start to like crave it almost.
Yeah, I think the meme of choose your hard is right. You can choose your hard today. You can dig deep into your monthly budget and find $100 or $200 or whatever, or you can go 20 years from now, well, I never got around to it. And that's American, life is, there's people that are saying, I'll just figure it out later, and it's going to be tough on both financial and personal exercise fronts. It's a harder road to go down the road.
Don, one of the things I know that I've been taught is we're going to all face 3 challenges in our life. We're going to all face financial challenges, which you and I both know I have.
Yeah.
I have faced financial challenges.
Same. Yeah.
Over my lifetime.
Yeah.
We're going to all deal with health challenges, right? At some point in our life, we're going to deal with
going to be the curveball
and the ultimate health challenge, when that day is going to end for
undefeated.
us. Yeah. Father Time is undefeated.
Yes.
And the third thing that we're going to face is we're going to face relational challenges. There are going to be relationships in our life, lo and behold, that we're going to face, no matter what. It could be family, it could be a spouse, it could be whatever. Those are just the 3 challenges that we face. Today, we're talking about guarding against that financial challenge that we're all going to face at some point or another. And I want to go back to finding that right person to help you along the journey. Because our relationship has been way more than just, hey, Don, I need you to invest.
Yeah, what should I put my money into?
I need you to invest. I need you to tell me which accounts to put it into.
Right.
And, you can, it's me calling you like I did earlier this week and saying, hey, Don, I've got this opportunity that's come up. Maybe, can we go to lunch and just talk about it? And you give me the non-emotional, hey, Kevin, if you're going to take money out of here to invest it here, is that going to make logical sense? And you're going to walk me down this road. It's again, I want to just go back to, if I'm new, how do I find that person?
Yeah.
How do I?
It's a great question. I mean, there are great firms, and I'm not going to shill for any one particular firm, but I would use, firms, large, well-known firms have people you can talk to and get basic. There's a lot of good online help. I don't know that everybody needs a financial advisor on day one.
Okay. I want everybody to hear that. That's really important.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have it either.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, no. And because I think you want to get to a financial advisor when you've gotten enough resources where you have multiple options of what paths to choose and somebody to help you choose the best path, which relates back to your goals, which gets technical. That's really where an advisor can kind of guide you. Think of it like a guide. You and I would be fine rafting the Truckee by ourselves. But if you and I are going to do a level 5 rapid, we better not try that. You and I, a couple of city slickers, we better not try that on our own. When the stakes are higher and the consequences for failure are higher, you want to enlist somebody that you trust to help you make those calls. So, and again, I'm going to share parts of our conversation, which is you are gratefully in a situation where not every financial decision needs to be about rate of return. You can have other metrics that you're measuring. But because you've done so many things right up until this point, you now have that other thing, and it's like people say, only take to Vegas what you can afford to lose. And I've always quibbled with some friends in this regard, where if you have $1,000 and you take it to Vegas to lose and you get it somehow to 10,000 and then you leave with 1,000 and you then pat me on the back and go, that's okay. I didn't lose any money. I only, I left with the same 1,000 I brought. I go, no, you had 10. So you did lose 9. You still have 1. That's good, but having 10 would have been better. So the point of that is getting to a point where you have excess is after all the basic stuff is covered. People treat those the same. In my opinion, they're not the same. And so I think you just need to be really diligent about the easy early things, which many firms can help you with. We can certainly provide resources, and I'm happy to put them in the show notes of, my preference for where people starting out would want to start out versus other places. And then you've done that for a while. Now, all of a sudden, now I've got 3 different doors to choose from. Well, then it's like choosing door 1 and choosing door 3 have real different terminal consequences. Let's choose the right door. That's where somebody can simply help you assess what might be best for you.
That's great.
This question's for both of you.
Yes.
So from my background, we didn't know any of this. It was, we want something, work harder. The whole idea of like, oh, we got maybe college tuition to pay for. Well, that means I have about X amount of years to work OT, and I'll put that in the mattress, and we'll just, hopefully it's enough. So my question for both of you is, if you don't really have anybody in your life that understands this sort of thing, and you're not ready for a financial advisor, who would you guys say I could, or somebody in my situation, who would you say we could turn to as a mentor for something like this. I'll reveal mine. It's getting in rooms like this where I can easily text Kevin any day of the week. He may not get to me right away, but I know he'll respond if I were to say, hey, I'm going through this situation, like my plumbing one recently. Can you help, like, give me some advice? He would do that. But that's because I've put myself in really cool rooms like this. But for, again, your everyday service tech, like, what would they be able to do?
So I guess I will shill a tiny bit here. This is not the only firm that has the capability of doing this, but then I think I want to make sure that people are getting started with a clean, low fee way to engage with answers. And so the firm that I use and our money is custodied with is Charles Schwab, which is the sort of Bay Area behemoth of low cost places to engage. And so you could either online or in a branch walk in and say, I want to save for college. They'll talk to you about your 401k, but those things are sort of very easy ways to build your plumbing. And then second, you're going to walk into somebody's office and say, I want to educate a child, because what people aren't using properly are the government has given you all these really tax efficient, powerful options. And for whatever reason, very few people are taking advantage of them. And so saving future taxes is just as important as making more money. And if you can do both, and so there's like super easy tools, even things as simple as, do I do a Roth 401k or a traditional 401k? I think you need to split and do both, because you want the option. It's giving you another card that's an out down the road. Saves you some taxes today, gives you some tax-free withdrawals down the road. Then you're starting to build an architecture for your family that is addictive. Now you're going, oh my gosh, that grew this much this year. This grew this much this year. This is never going to be taxed. So now you've got all these different plays running, and they'll start small, and you'll feel like saving $20 a week, that's not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to be an answer. But then in 5 years, it'll be 200. And then you'll go, wow, I didn't feel it at 20 because it was all I could afford. Somehow I'm not feeling it at 200, because it goes into a different bucket for you. And then mentally you're like, okay, it's not there. I've said this about emergency funds forever. People are like, have 6 months of an emergency fund or a month or whatever it is. And if you just have it sitting in a savings account or whatever, my life has been super clear. My emergencies always rise right to the level of my emergency bucket. And it happens every time. And I would have had $5,000 set aside. There would be a mysterious $2,500 repairs that needed to happen right then, and money gone. So somehow when it got into even a money market fund or something that's invested, the emergencies missed it somehow, And so all of a sudden I was able to get a little bit ahead because I didn't just suck this thing out every time. That's demoralizing, but you have to have a way to get money if you need it. That's yours and you're not borrowing it. So all these things are just putting outs in your hand through time.
What a great first episode.
Is that it? Are we
Yeah.
done? Oh, geez.
Yeah, I'd like to recap just what we've talked about here. And I think the first part that I want people to take away is to build the financial muscle.
Yeah.
The same way that we build the health muscle in the gym.
And build your spending around making it less than you're earning.
Yes.
That's important.
Say that again. Say that one more time.
So know what you're earning, know what you're spending. That's job one. And look at the things that you're spending. And if you're spending more than you're earning, you have to fix that right away. That's a sacrifice. That's something's got to be cut. Mm-hmm. So I didn't mean to preempt you, but that's important.
I think I'm going to back up that, because I think the mindset, it starts with the mindset of what you just said.
Yes. Agency.
Yes.
I'm in control of this.
Yeah. The next thing I want to just wrap up with is the concept number 2, which is just that regular routine of understanding that I'm learning a new language, Mandarin, right?
Yeah.
Begin looking at spending Don, 30 to 60 minutes each week.
Yeah.
Carving that out.
That's it. Yep.
To look at your accounts.
Mhm.
And it could be as simple as just understanding the spending that's going on your credit card, understanding the spending and what's going out on your checking account.
Yep.
Looking at and watching your 401k. I mean, and I'm just talking about what I used to do, which is I would just look at it, go and look at it, understand it, kind of click through it, but just that regular routine of building the muscle.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Anything you want to add on that one?
The only other things I would add is to be very careful of how and when you use debt. That's a sort of a core factor, and trying to do things that will increase the rate of return on what money you do have even a little bit. These are all valuable things to pursue. And they become, you'll get confident pretty quickly with what things there are available to help you do that. So.
And then the third concept I really want people to take away is start getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, meaning ratchet that savings up from 2% to 3%.
Yeah, force yourself to do it.
And we called it strategic urgency.
Yeah.
Recognizing that it will normalize, trusting yourself that you will raise your game to that level to be able to cover that.
Yeah.
And you will normalize. So.
One of my favorite sayings my entire life, and I say it to my kids all the time in addition to a few other things, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you don't perceive you have a choice. In other words, when you say in the morning, we do this all the time. It's like if we're supposed to work out and you can't come and the other guys can't come, that increases the chance of me not working out by 98%. But if you're going to be there and paces, it's like if those guys are going to be there, then all of a sudden you don't have a choice. Yeah. So I didn't sleep well. That's all right. Get out of bed and go do it, because other people are counting on you. And that's all of us, I think, have that, that innate desire to not want to let down a team.
Yes.
And that's what this company's been built on. It's what all great successful teams, it's what the military's built on and special forces is. It's not about you. It's about the person standing next to you and the person standing right at you. That's what it's about. So,
great first episode on financial literacy for the service pros. We're going to be back for episode 2 here in a second, where we're going to really start digging into some strategies that you can use for your growth and your long-term freedom. So what Don and I just talked about today is right up my alley, because this is all about making your future bigger than your past. This is all about duplicating doubling what you have, increasing what you have so that you have that freedom. So as we end every show, thank you, Don. Here's to a bigger future.
Thank you, Kevin.